Good evening and welcome to the Edmonton Craft Beer Virtual Tasting Room. I'm your host, John Garum, and I'm pleased to present some of these great Edmonton craft beers today. I've been involved in the craft beer business off and on for about 20 years. I've gone to a lot of brew pubs all over the world. I've run and managed large craft beer festivals and talked to a lot of brewmasters and just generally hung around the tasting room and the works and all the different equipment in the back of the brewery. So through osmosis and my own curiosity, I've learned quite a bit about craft beer. And of course, the best part about craft beer is the local brew pubs and local microbreweries and local breweries. So I'm really pleased today to help you navigate the Edmonton craft beer scene and make you a bit more aware of what kind of wonderful craft beers we have here in Edmonton. So this virtual tasting, we'll be looking at 3 different types of beers, 3 different styles of beer from one brewery. We also have some polling questions that will come up on the screen, and the chat feature will be enabled for you to have a quick chat with me and ask any questions or any comments during the tasting. And remember, this is all about having fun and getting together with a group of friends and colleagues that you might have today and sharing information and stories and learning a bit more about craft beer. And don't forget, after this tasting finished, this might be just what you need to start your own journey towards craft beer and understanding the different styles and the pleasure and the good company of friends that go along with craft beer. So first of all, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Edmonton history and the history of craft beer. So the first legislation that actually looked at the type of beers that were available in Edmonton was passed in 1891. So you have to remember, back in Edmonton in 1891, the only place you could really buy beer is at a hotel, in a bar or a tavern. So that's where people either went to consume beers or take one of these familiar looking flasks nowadays, but growlers and other types of containers to take them home to enjoy. So the first brewery in Edmonton itself was founded in 1905. It's a Rossdale brewery. And by 1908, they were making 20,000 barrels of beer for happy Edmontonians. Today, there's literally dozens of craft beers in Edmonton's surrounding regions, all the way from larger production breweries such as Alley Cat, we're going to try today, to sort of pub brews and microbrews. So it's a really interesting scene. And of course, one of the main ingredients from craft beer is grains. And here in Alberta, we grow the best grains in the world for beer. They're world renowned. Barley, rye, wheat, whatever goes into good craft beers is grown around the Edmonton region and throughout Alberta. So before we go into the actual tasting, I just want to explain a little bit about craft beer and what makes craft beer unique. So with craft beer, there's only 4 main ingredients, and that is malted barley, yeast, water, and hops. So the hops are a plant or an ingredient that gives it its bitterness taste, sometimes like citrus notes and pine tree, and just sort of that refreshing taste that you get, that crisp taste you get with beers when you drink it, comes from the hops. So the malted barley starts off with just regular barley. And what they do is they soak it so the barley starts to germinate. And when it starts to germinate, it releases sugars. And that's what you really need to start the brewing process off. And once that process is completed, then it is dried and roasted. Now, the roasting part is really important, because if you don't roast it, you get a very pale, mild beer. And if you roast it to a chocolate or a darker color, you'll get a brown ale or a dark ale, which is one of the beers we're going to be looking at today. So the type of grain and the malting levels and the roasting levels all are a type of ingredient that will give you different styles of beers. So also note that with Edmonton craft beers, no adjuncts, that's what they call it in brew terms. Adjuncts are things like rice or corn or other ingredients or unnatural ingredients that will go into mass-produced beer. So if there's anything outside those 4 ingredients, then those additives will be natural, like a natural fruit or a natural kind of ingredient that's introduced into the brewing process. So today we're going to try 3 different craft beers from one of the oldest craft brewery here in Edmonton, called Alley Cat Brewing. They've been around for 25 years, and they've always had that craft beer heart with them from the beginning. So that means it's small batches, means it's the best ingredients. It means there's originality in the style and the type of beers that are made. The brewmaster is almost like an artist that creates these different styles of beer instead of just following the same recipe time after time after time, which is what mass-produced beers will do. So very creative, kind of artisanal brewing process that we find with these type of breweries. So the first beer we're going to try is the Skåne Gulch. And it's a lighter style beer that was, the recipe goes back to Germany. And what you're going to do is you're going to open your Skåne and find a nice clean beer glass. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be nice and clean without any spots or soap or anything else that's going to affect the flavor of the beer. And then what you want to do is you want to pour it at a 45-degree angle. And as it comes up, you'll see that it forms a nice layer of what we call the head of the beer. And you can see in some styles like like this one here, the apricot wine, the head stays a bit longer, and the head's there to protect the freshness of the wine as you're drinking it. So if we look at this Kolsch, you'll find a few things. One of it is the level of hoppiness or bitterness on it. It's a crisp, refreshing kind of beer. And the hops that are used give it like citrus notes and a bit of maltiness from roasting the barley in this beer. So this beer is sort of pale yellow in color, a bit to the yellow hue of things, and nice small beads running up inside the brew. And then once you taste it, you'll find that sort of malty flavor, and then the crispness of the hops and the citrus notes will come through. So this is a very refreshing summer style beer that would be great on patios. And Edmontonians love golfing in the summer. So you'll find this style of beer out on the 19th hole after a relaxing round of golf, or anywhere people get together for camping or barbecues. This is perfect craft beer for Edmontonians and visitors that are coming to Edmonton. So thank you very much for coming to visit today and having a look at this video. This video is just a sample of the virtual beer tastings we do here, and hopefully it'll give you some idea of what to expect. If this video was going through the entire half hour to 45 length, we would introduce a few more beers. We would start putting polling questions up. We would get Q&As going and things like that, and engage and involve the participants in the tasting. So thank you very much for taking the time out, and hopefully we will see you soon. Cheers.